This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1895. Let's talk Picard. All right.
We don't need an intro here. It's just Shane and I today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna
Star Trek.
Yeah, we're gonna pull it out of the episodes that we've been doing. You know, we talk a little bit about Picard, but then we have to sort of rush through because nobody else is watching. Oh no.
We're always like, it's so good.
So we thought we'd give you a little mini episode here. We are up to what was episode 8?
Episode 8. Yep.
Surrender. Yeah. So Shane and I usually every now and then I'm like, "Did you see it?"
Yep. Did you watch it yet?
And then you
oh my God!
Me the one time. And this last episode, I fell asleep and woke up and purposely watched not only Surrender but the episode before, because I tried to watch before the new one. I watched the old one again.
Okay.
And then I watched this one again because I just was like, I don't want any spoilers. I thought this was going to be a very important episode, which it was, sort of,
Yeah.
And I was like, so then I texted Shane. I was like, Shane, let's do an episode. Let's get it out there. Let's, old school CGS time, like little mini specific episode about whatever,
Yep. So. And I was okay with that.
Good. What'd you think of this episode? And obviously, people,
good.
we're going in.
We're spoiling.
We're going to talk about theories, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. Right, and if we're right, great. And we didn't know anything beforehand.
Sure.
No, it was great. It was really exciting to see everybody come together finally.
Oh my God, finally.
I mean, not that I minded the journey to get here, but I wouldn't have been unhappy if it was a couple episodes ago, but I get it. It's a slow burn in some ways, and you just got to be patient with it, and it's worth it in the end. I will say I do think the explanation of whatever is happening with Jack is taking too long. Mm-hmm. That's my one complaint. I wanted at least the answer, the view behind the door. I wanted that this past episode. Right. Cut it off at that point, confuse us. I don't care, but give a cliffhanger about it. But I didn't want to cut off with what they did with before the doors open.
Right.
That's my biggest complaint about the show.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, because it's like that's been the ongoing mystery. And now you've set it up that it either has to be totally amazing to warrant lasting until episode 9.
Yeah.
Or it has to function as the main drive for the last 2 episodes. And I think you're right. I think the better thing would have been to, just like the, I am Locutus, fire the end of that cliffhanger. You set up a cliffhanger that we got to go for a week. Like, what the F is going to happen now?
Yep.
I think there's enough clues, but we've been, you and I both been saying, we've both been really surprised about a lot of things. And a lot of I think a lot of people like are looking at the show and thinking one thing, and then it turns out to be something completely different. So
yeah,
even if they would have given us the answer, they still could have surprised us. But that's my thing. Like, I totally agree. And will it resonate enough? Plus, we only have 2 episodes.
Right.
I don't want Jack's story to be 9 and then the wrap up to be 10. Like the climax has to happen next episode.
Yeah.
I want at least an episode and a half of whatever this Frontier Day thing is going to turn out to be, because then we got to get a resolution. Like I want a half hour of just the 7 of them just resolving the whole situation with the kids and the next generation and the legacy,
And I really hope the last episode is a longer episode, especially now that we're at 9 and 10. Right. And still we have clues about what's going on with Jack, but we don't know. So to find out what it is, and I don't know if you saw the little clip for next week's episode.
I usually don't watch it.
There's 2 different ones. There's an actual kind of trailer, and then there's a clip. Okay. And just where the clip is seems like it's going to pick up in the beginning with where you ended the last episode. But I'm like, oh my God, you're wasting like 2 minutes. with getting to that point. Come on.
Yeah, they do that a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
And I get it, but man, yeah.
Something you said I thought about with this episode, like you said, you wanted the seven of them to be together earlier.
Hmm.
And, certainly we don't need data, right? We've had enough data all of
Yeah.
season one,
All season one
right?
and two. Yeah.
Right.
And really two with Sung, but that not
Mhm.
quite the same, but
Or maybe
still.
the actor, right? Like the
Hmm.
actor has been prevalent. So, okay, we're fine. Um, and Deanna were in season one.
Yep.
Riker has been a major force in this one. Totally fine.
Yep.
Um, uh, Worf has certainly got his share in this season.
Yeah.
Geordi or Beverly, of course, right?
Beverly.
Can't
Yeah.
change
She was,
that.
and I was surprised that she was first thing you saw, man. That was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Right away.
Because she always felt like, not that she was like the lesser of the seven, but they didn't do a lot of stories with like her and Deanna as opposed to all the other
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
So then you get to Geordi, right? Like it took a long time to get to Geordi. Okay. And then I thought it really took a long time to get Deanna back in, even though we saw
Yeah.
her 2 episodes ago. Then they totally skipped them for an episode. And now, but
Hmm.
she's going to have her own episode next, or at least she's going to drive that.
Yeah. In part.
Yeah. So when I read a few interviews about like the actors had certain things they wanted to make sure that they could do, I feel like that's why the rollout has been slow.
Hmm.
Michael Dorn probably with their discussion wanted Worf to be where he is now. It's basically Beverly's story, so okay, that's fine. Geordi, it makes me feel like LeVar Burton was like, look, what I want my daughter in the show, number one.
Hmm.
And number two, I want a scene with Data. Like I want us to have those two characters, and they
Yeah.
got that in this episode. And with Deanna, you know, even the stuff that she had with Riker in this episode, which was okay. Like I'm not so invested in that relationship. Like, great, they had a scene together. We want that. Fine.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, what is she really going to bring to the story? It's good that we're going to get at least, I assume, a good chunk of next episode for her too. So I feel like
Yeah.
the rollout makes sense because I feel like the showrunner is listening to what they want and where they want their characters to wind.
Sure.
So I dig that. I do dig that.
Yeah, and I don't disagree because I've enjoyed everybody's part in it and the build up to everything
Yeah.
and bringing them on. Even though we kind of knowing that they were all in the show to begin with, we knew that they would all come together.
Right.
However, I do like how in the story it wasn't assumed like, well, Picard brought Riker along, great, and they went for Dr. Crusher, also great because of the message that she sent out. But
Right.
Geordi was kind of, well, we need help and I'm getting desperate, so I'm going to go here because maybe this is where I can get some help. And Data was completely unexpected, and Worf was kind of unexpected too, and a surprise. And I like how they brought Raffi into that part of it as well.
Yeah.
Although her part in the show really doesn't matter as much as far as I expected. Like when Worf and Raffi first showed up, I thought Picard would say something to her like, "Oh, thank God you're here too," because of how important she was to the story in season 1 and 2 for him, especially.
Yeah.
And there's been none of that. Like she and Picard really haven't even had a line together, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in the last episode we all were on, where it feels like, yeah, they make mention of season 1 and 2, even like with the relationship between Seven and Rafi, but they're like, we don't need that for this. Yeah.
Nope. And Seven, she's been fantastic all season. I've enjoyed her character growth immensely.
Yeah. The other one I forgot too was Brent Spiner. Like, even though we've seen him, I feel like the actors, Brent Spiner probably was like, great, I'll come back as Data. No more makeup.
Yeah.
I'll wear the contact lenses. I don't want makeup. And I feel like that was his way of kind of maybe that was something that either was suggested to him or he suggested. And they're like, great, we'll just make him human.
Yeah. Because when Nemesis came out, that was a big drive of him saying, well, no more Data. Data can't age. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm getting too old.
Yeah.
And the first season Picard Data parts also kind of made sense in a last ditch effort to have
Right.
Data in it, and now he's gone. Um, but I agree. I like it, it seems for all the stuff that they put Data through and all his brothers and parental figures and all of that evolution, this does make sense,
Yeah.
especially with what you saw happen with Picard in the first season,
Right.
too,
Right.
which they've
Right.
also kind of just briefly mentioned from time to time.
Yep. Yep.
And if you don't listen hard enough, you're going to miss it. Because
Yeah.
I've had friends that are like, well, did they say something like that? Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. Well, when's that? A couple seasons ago, but you don't need it because it's
Right.
irrelevant right now.
Right.
Um, so I do enjoy that part of it too, that they found a new way to make it make sense for Data to be what he is, and kind of finally put an end to lore. I enjoyed lore immensely throughout the years at various times,
Right.
but how many times is he going to come back and take over Data? And I really enjoyed how they had Data defeat him finally.
Yeah.
Which, as soon as he started handing him stuff
Yeah.
through, I'm like, oh, that's it. He's done.
Right. It's so funny that because we've both watched so much of Star Trek, like as soon as he handed Tasha's thing where he was like, well, these are memories of me, and you could, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he's totally
He's bluffing him.
bluffing
Yeah,
him,
he's
right?
totally bluffing him.
Like it goes back to almost season one Picard where
Yeah.
Picard was like, you have a tell. It's like Data has a tell.
Mm-hmm.
And you only know it if you've watched this show for so long. It was such an obvious feed. That was so
Yep.
great. That was so great.
And Lors as a character is arrogant enough to think he's winning,
Right.
especially against Data. And yeah, for me it was as soon as he handed the poker cards over, I'm like, he's bluffing him.
Oh, right, that
That's
one
it.
too. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I would have been totally okay had it been lore. Like if putting Data into lore would have changed him,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been I would have absolutely been fine. We never got like a really good lore resolution
Yeah,
after
the
that
Borg thing.
after that Borg thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have been totally fine.
And I really thought it was going to come out as a different name, not Data anymore, not Lore. I really thought
Yeah.
there was a possibility of him coming, well, I'm now Data Lore.
Right.
Like that
Just like the
episode was
episodes, yeah.
titled.
Mhm.
I really thought that could have been a possibility.
Right. Or B4, takes
Yeah.
over or something. Yeah. Yeah. That would
Yeah.
have been great. Um the other thing I thought was really, really interesting, and again, like, well, there's two things like as an actor I sort of thought about in this episode. First of all, Marina Sirtis as Deanna is so different than her Deanna from the series, right?
Mhm.
Making jokes, totally her relationship with Riker. It's not that she's cynical, she is Marina Sirtis. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like there's more Marina in Deanna now because she's probably like, Deanna's old. Think about
Yeah.
what her mother was like, Deanna's mother, right? Like
Yeah.
that scene, I was like, this is not Marina playing Deanna. This is Marina playing Marina.
Yeah, putting a little bit more of herself into the role. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the closest you got with that in the regular series was when Worf was jumping through time periods. I think it was called Parallels.
Mm.
And when she's Worf's wife in an alternate reality, she had that more Marina side of her because she thought
Interesting.
she was talking to her husband and joking and stuff. And then that stopped when she realized Worf was not Worf that she knows. But in the end, it came around a little bit again.
Yeah.
But just that one episode was a little bit more like what this Deanna is,
Oh,
I
that's
think,
cool.
than any of the other ones were.
I was trying to think about like when that switch was, because she used to always joke about eating chocolate and all that. But then I thought it was like in First Contact, the movie, the drunk scene was
Oh
like
my
the
God.
first time it felt like that's not Deanna. That's Marina,
Yeah.
trying to do like change like I thought that was from there on. But you're right. Like I'd have to watch that episode again. I don't remember that episode too.
Yeah, and it's only a few minute part. It's not like it's the whole episode. It's just a
Yeah.
few minutes in the middle towards the end.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The First Contact, and then as the movies progressed, she got
Right.
more and more like that. And it was a good evolution for her character to go through.
Yeah. The second moment that I thought really was strong, And look, I'm not trying to say this is like the best writing ever, but when they were around the table
Hmm.
and they all were having the conversation, they all
Yeah.
had lines, they all had something to say about the plot, and it was like the old,
Hmm.
Star Trek Next Generation Ready Room conversations. And I was like, this
Yeah.
is really great. Like nobody is taking over this conversation. Everybody has something to say, and they all say it based on what their characters would give to that
Yeah.
conversation. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's great.
And,
That's
and
everything
at
we
this
wanted. That's everything we wanted.
and at the same time, all of them in their careers, to a certain extent, are almost on the same level now. I mean, I know
Yeah.
Admiral Picard's Admiral and all that, but they have all matured and gotten to a level where they, instead of being captain, lieutenant, they really would be first name basis, just talking casually, because over 30 years, and it's evident by certain lines that have come in and out of the show in the last few seasons, but especially this one, they have kept in contact with the most of them have in
Right.
some way.
Right.
Picard's going to Geordi's anniversary party.
Right.
They're doing things, Worf's like, well, it's been so many days since I've seen you, you or you. Like
Yeah.
there is some connection there that still has been tested through the times, that they converse
Right.
more frequently than what we probably thought they would have.
Right.
Um, but it's been enjoyable, and I like that they were not afraid to also recognize the fact that it was the first time they were all sitting together. Because
Yes.
Riker sits down and says, "This is the first time we've been around this table together like this in a while."
Yeah.
So it's not like they're trying to hide it either.
Right.
They're being very
Right.
open about what they're doing.
Which is so funny because they've all been to conventions and they've all been in the same room
Oh yeah,
probably multiple times. But
yeah,
on
and
TV, that's different.
more so than almost any cast. And I think all of the cast seem to get along fairly well when I see interviews and conventions and different things online. I do think the next gen cast really were tighter,
Yeah.
longer,
Yeah.
and have kept it the entire time since the show ended.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's so funny. That's something that we did not get with the original series. Like, even though they went through all those movies, by the time you got to six, they were all there, but um, George Takei was not
yeah,
technically with them. It
yeah,
always
he
bugs
was.
me at the end of six that he's not on that bridge.
Yeah, I thought that he would have been there visiting something before
Yeah,
he goes on his separate way.
exactly. Right. They
Yep.
could have done that. They could have, whatever. So at least the next gen totally has that. The thing that you said about them being on the level, I wonder, one of my not my this is not really a theory. This is more of like, I wonder if this could happen, or it could be a really cool thing if it did happen. I go back to that conversation Shaw has
Hmm.
had with Picard and doggy barking, Picard
Yeah.
and Riker
Good old
about,
days.
yeah, about, you guys are the heroes, but yet they're the ones who caused the problem and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want Shaw to have to. I think what's gonna. I hope if he doesn't die, which I don't think he will. I want him to be very uncomfortable with the fact that he is now going to be one of those heroes. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
going to be there. All the seven are going to be there. Seven herself is going to be there. Shaw's going to be there. Everybody's gonna be like, thank you, and he's going to be like, oh shit. Now
Yeah.
thank you. Now I'm a hero.
Yep.
I want
Yep.
him to have to mature to that point where he's going to be so pissed off that he is going to be seen in the same light as all of them. I think that'd be great. I think that'd be so great.
And even with his character specifically, he in the beginning was a very love-hate for me, because I'm like, oh God,
Sure.
what a dick.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, there's the line where he's talking to Picard and saying, well, why are you doing this? Why, dude, give this kid over. And he's like, he's my son. He's like, ah, shit. And he's like, all right, shields up, let's go.
Right.
Because even he realizes, as much as he's against what Riker and Picard do generally, when it comes to what you just said, Picard, this is your kid now, that this is why you're doing it. All right, I get it. Let's protect you. Do what we can.
Right.
Even though it's going to mean screwing everything up. I get
Right.
it.
And Riker did it. We talked about this the last time. Riker did it when, was the Intrepid that was going to fire on him? Was that the ship that Ro came in on? I forget what
Yeah,
ship she
yeah.
came.
I think it was Intrepid.
And Riker's like, Shaw, just look, open your eyes,
Yeah.
just see
Yep.
what's, and you'll see this isn't us. This is,
Uh-huh.
So I love that he's learning to be a better captain.
Hmm.
But yet I also like that he's trying to. It's him and Seven are really interesting because he's trying to make Seven go by the books, and Seven is, I think, going to have an effect on him about sacrifice. And because in this episode where he's like, look, you just got to think about the ship. Even if all those people die, we got to think about the ship, right? But yet she
Yeah.
still sacrifices herself, quote unquote,
Hmm.
by not going in the thing, or like she didn't want to sacrifice him in the turbo lift. And I think their relationship, they're good. He has a journey that he's not going to realize till the end, but yet I do also see how she could be a better Starfleet personnel
Oh
because
yeah.
of what he is too,
Yeah.
because she's so, she's Seven, right? Like
Yeah.
she doesn't have to listen to anybody.
Yeah. She's still part, gosh, what was that other group she was called?
The Fenris Rangers. Yeah.
The Ranger. She's still a Ranger at heart in a lot of
Right.
ways.
Right.
And I like that in the beginning of the season, I like that she said, well, you and Janeway to Picard, you and Janeway talked me into and convinced me to do this. And I get that. So it's still very hard for her to do it. But people that she admires from her kind of origin with Janeway and recently with Picard still got her to understand what her potential is,
Right.
even though it's hard.
Right.
She's still going to be a better person at the end of this than what she
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're good. Those characters really work. What else did you take out of this episode? What are you excited about, or what?
I really enjoyed, like you said, Data and Geordi had to have a scene. I enjoyed their scene immensely. Their friendship has always been something that when you get to focus on that, I treasure those episodes.
Yeah.
I think it goes along with some of what Star Trek's themes always were about recognizing people for who they are, not what they are. And even though Data was very emotionless, analytical android, he was still a great friend to Geordi, and Geordi imparted something on him, even though Data couldn't feel it until much later, and certainly more so now than ever before.
Yeah.
But there's still something there that always told him, hey, this is my best friend right here.
Right. Right.
And just that scene was very touching, I thought, to me.
Do you think it was odd that they got rid of Vatic in this episode? And also, did they get rid of Vatic in this episode?
Well, I thought it was odd, but I'll tell you what, I cheered when she shattered into 1,000 little pieces. And I hope she's gone because I'll be glad that they got the upper hand for all the shit that she put them through.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, well, maybe she's going to land on the ship. Maybe she's going to go in the hangar deck. And then I'm like, yeah. Oh, that was kind of silly. I'm sitting by myself in the middle of the night going,
it was great, but I was very surprised. I don't know why I was surprised that she's gone. And I was like, wait, is she?
Well,
and I know that there's the big bad left, but
there's the big
boss.
bad left. And she served her purpose now and couldn't do what she had to do. And that's completely evident because even if she did survive, I'm sure the guy that she's talking to would have either ripped her a new one or killed her himself, because she's now failed him like, what, 3-4 times now in the last few episodes?
Yeah. Basically just got outsmarted. It was very, I was, again, the show every now and then throws a little bit of surprise. And I'm like, it's Amanda Plummer. So you're not going to get rid of her before the series ends, right? Oh, yeah, they are. They really are. Okay.
Yep. I wonder if, because I know her father passed away right after Knives Out was released or right before it was released.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if this was in the works back then. Like, did he know she was going to play this now?
Interesting. Because
of his time as the Klingon General Chang in Undiscovered Country. I just would have liked to have, and maybe it's out there and I just haven't found the right article, but I have wondered if they ever got to have a conversation about this performance that she was going to do.
Yeah. Just using the actors. So it just calls back, because Undiscovered Country is probably my favorite movie. So it was just so cool to have that connection, because they're doing it with the actors, they're doing it with the stories, they're doing it with characters, they're doing it with music, as you mentioned. Everything
and
is coming out.
They're doing it in a way that, yes, in some ways it's fan service, but it's woven so well that you can't call it that exclusively. It is definitely story driven.
Sure.
And taking beats from Star Trek 2, Star Trek 6, Star Trek 3, the motion picture, First Contact, you're
4.
taking all these little
Yeah.
beats and you're putting it together in a way that's weaving this tale and using the music, the graphics, the sound effects. I mean, like when Amanda Plummer's character gets on the Titan the first time and she whips up her arm and opens the scanner, and all you hear is the Star Trek 2 scanner going beep, 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 beep. I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Not only because of what I think it means, but also giving a continuity to all kinds of equipment and sounds that you would hear in this world.
Right. Right.
Just amazing.
Yeah. So we did learn some stuff about Jack, because that's obviously the biggest mystery here. So
Yeah.
I'll throw out some things just to put it all into context. First of all, Deanna says she can't read changelings.
Yep.
So, and there's been enough discussion of like, Jack has even said that he doesn't feel like he's a changeling and all that, right? Okay, so there was that. Let me save that one. Let me save that one. Okay, when Deanna gets on the ship, she says, there's an all-consuming darkness on the ship, not in him, around and through him, a
Yep.
voice ancient and weak that isn't his own. And then the two that I think are really, really strong, Vatic, when Jack finally gets on the bridge and Seven stays behind, Vatic says to Seven, how fitting it is for you to stay and witness this.
Yep. I thought that too.
That's huge. And
Yep.
then Jack says at one point in that same scene, there's no point in resisting,
Mm-hmm.
which is resistance is futile,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. So all those things, what do you got any theories?
It
What's
makes
going
me
on?
think he's got nanobots running through him that are Borg.
He has to, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like I
Because I
read
thought at some point throughout the series, I can't remember if it was Voyager. It would have been Voyager. Maybe it was just a story or a book. God, I just can't remember where I think this from. That even though you remove everything, everything is not gone. Like if you remove all the Borg parts, like you did for Picard or Seven, and Seven does still have a couple, that there's still something in there. So like just because you removed everything from Picard visually, is there still something in there that you just can't drain out? It might not be active and you might not have any connection. It might not be affecting anything, but if it gets transferred to somebody else, well, maybe that woke it up because
right,
now it's new, quote, new life.
right,
I don't know. There's just something there that makes me wonder about that.
right. And plus we've already had Picard hearing voices and
Hmm.
whenever he's around the Borg, he can hear them. He has something he told Data that time to, go attack this
Oh
part
yeah.
of their ship.
Yep.
Like he has such an awareness, right?
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be close because in First Contact, he's light years
Oh, that's
away
true. That's true.
before the Admiral calls him and says
Right,
to say the Borg are attacking. And he's like, I
right,
know it's the Borg because he could
right.
hear it.
One of the theories that I read online that is very close to what we've been talking about on through text and stuff. They say how in that original Best of Both World episodes, when they finally when they rescue Picard, rescue
Hmm.
Locutus, Beverly mentioned something about like there are some changes that are almost down to the DNA.
Yeah.
And they were saying how, okay, because even in this season, they've been saying how the syndrome that he has might have been an incorrect thing.
Yep.
So their theory is whatever was in Picard might have been masquerading as the syndrome so that nobody would go in and remove it from him.
Yeah.
So when
The
they
only thing, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no,
Finish your thought.
yeah, when they find Worf's body, or I'm sorry, when they find Picard's body in this episode, they say the only thing that was removed were the sections that were affected by the aromatic syndrome.
Yeah.
That makes me think maybe they're right. Like maybe the nanobots or whatever were pretending so that you wouldn't mess around with it. Meanwhile, it then gets transferred biologically through to Beverly,
Yeah.
who she's no stranger. Like I hope that one of the big reveals is that yes, it's all about Picard and his body, but also that there's something about Beverly.
Yeah.
that she has produced two sons now
That are
that are,
extraordinary.
yeah, like, come on, it can't, it's not obviously not just Picard,
Yeah. And
unless
it's
they're
not
going
just Jack.
unless they're
Like
going to go,
her first husband, Jack.
what if they retcon that and they're like, oh, by the way, Wesley is your kid? Like, that'd be crazy. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
still, the whole thing is like, there's something, I wonder if that would be a great way to go, oh, you all thought it was about Picard, but it really also was about Beverly as well.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
And I wonder with the Irumodic syndrome, that's something that he's had his entire life. I mean, that's not something that they just found out about during Star Trek
But they
after the
only,
Borg,
I
or
think
was it after the
it
Borg?
was, I think this theory says that when it was diagnosed, when they actually bring it up in the series, it's after the Best of Both World episodes.
So then if it was that, then well, okay, so maybe I'd have to watch All Good Things again, because maybe it was just in there where they scanned him because of his supposed time jumps and found the Irumodic syndrome then, which is, well after the Borg
Yeah,
incident.
yeah.
So that would make sense canonic canonically. Is that a word? Canonically?
Chronologically, yeah.
Chronologically?
Because they could, again, she could just say, you have this syndrome. Oh, you
Because
had
this
it
is
all
what
your
all the things
life.
say. Yeah.
Oh, but no, we don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's interesting. I think it probably flows along a lot of the things we've been thinking of. My only thing then is, okay, what would the changelings want with that? If that face guy is a changeling, first of all,
Yeah.
um, and the only thing I could think of is the changelings are like the Borg, but only when they're actually in the Great Link.
Yeah.
So do they want whatever is in Jack so that they can be connected outside of the link? Like
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
that could be
Because they've already evolved from just being goo to being able to pass as humans until you get down to dissecting minute
right.
pieces of them
Or
so they can.
at least only those handful, right? Because it's not all the changing, it's just those ones that were
Well,
experimented on.
you're right, but I thought she had said Vatic before she died that she
Right.
could give it to anyone she wanted
Oh,
to
that's true. That's true.
when she was talking to Picard and Beverly when she was trapped in the force field.
Right.
So I'm like,
Right.
okay, well, so somebody else has to have that.
Right.
And now they're looking for the next step, just like you say, to evolve to where they can be the solids if they want. They can pass for humans and do whatever they want, but they still need to be connected the way they want to be.
Right.
And
Right.
the fact that you're putting all the ships together for this Frontier Day,
Yeah.
which Geordi already said, and his daughter already said that all those ships talk to each other. So it's a real
Mhm.
easy way to pass something along to all the ships all at one time. Along with whatever this changeling part is and
Right.
Jack, that could kind of easily be it.
Yeah.
Something to catapult all that
Yeah.
into being.
The biggest theory that everybody seems to think is that the face, the big bad behind it is the Pa Wraiths.
I thought that.
I think that'll come out of left field if that's what it is. Even though I'm not at that part yet at Deep Space Nine, even though
Oh, okay.
I do
What
know
happens?
some of the things that happen, and people are saying the red eyes, the way he controls people, it's all the same. But I'm like, this is so like,
It's
I
it's
don't know.
similar, and it would from this perspective. You've already got a good bit of Voyager. You've already got an
Huge
immense
Deep
amount of
Space Nine. Yeah.
Next Generation, and you've got a little bit of Deep Space Nine coming. This would be a huge influx of Deep Space Nine coming into here, which I think overall Picard as a series has lacked. I mean, you had mention of Admiral Sisko in season 2,
Right.
and that was it. But there hasn't been anybody
Well, I mean, outside
um,
the changelings themselves. Yeah.
outside the changes themselves.
Yeah.
So that would catapult this into incorporating more of what happened on Deep Space Nine. But I would also hope that you'd see somebody come through from that show, whether it be Miles or Kira,
Right.
somebody. And I
It's
know,
their story, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like Nana Visitor's been on lower decks
Right.
in a little episode, and that's fine. But there just seems to need to be something. And I don't disagree with that theory because they're right. The Pa race, the way it's portrayed, for the most part, they're following kind of a similar pattern that does make sense. But I don't think that they ever heard voices like that. Like I know that in this episode, Jack's hearing a voice and it sounds a lot like Beverly, but that could also be another version of a Borg queen out there
Yeah.
whispering to him. Because to me, if Voyager did anything also, it's not only proved that yes, there was a Borg queen in First Contact, but it is not the only Borg queen. And if that Borg queen was destroyed, there is another one, kind of like what Battlestar Galactica would have done. There's one that gets resurrected somewhere else to take its place
Mm-hmm.
and continue on as the Borg queen. Or maybe there's multiple Borg queens that are just connected together, and as one goes down, another one comes up, or they just strengthen what's existing, and it's a network of queens that oversees all the Borg. Like the queens are the one mind and the Borg are the hive that's behind it.
Right.
So it sort of would make sense to me that they could be using, quote, Beverly's voice to kind of influence Jack, but really still be the whole Borg behind it. But I almost feel like in that way, we've already done that in First Contact.
Yeah.
So why retread that? So it's got to be something different. And the Pa race makes sense.
Yeah.
Sort of.
We did Borg Queen in season 2. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't want it to be Girardi like that.
No.
I don't want that. That's
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I'm happy that she's out there protecting whatever wormhole's there and just let her there. That's fine.
I'm really, it's, the whole thing about it being an ancient voice. Vadic said something about like Jack has guilt over this. Like, why did he was he the cause of something that he doesn't know? Like, I just feel like I trust in that they're going to do something pretty awesome and left field, and maybe it might be something or maybe this might be the thing that's not connected to anything. Maybe that, they gave us so much that's already been connected. Maybe this is the one thing that they're going to be like, oh, this is something that is maybe in the Star Trek universe, but has never been really shown before. Which I'm okay with it. I'd be okay.
Oh yeah, totally. And then I'm going back through like original episodes trying to think of somebody that would have been ancient and old, and I'm thinking like the Trelane from the Squire of Gothos, or something else that is fairly powerful but fairly ancient. Like is it the Guardian of Forever in some capacity? Like there's something that's coming to a head here that if it's completely brand new in that way, I'll be a little disappointed. Even if it makes sense for the story and is fantastic, the way they're playing it, it is something that we should have at least heard about in some part of Star Trek history to date.
Right.
Even if it was just mentioned once, it should be something that's out there that would make sense.
And why does Vadic know about the red door? And
this
is a huge mystery. I feel like this has to land. Like, I don't think it's not going to make me disappointed, but I think some people might get disappointed if it's not like a big reveal,
Yeah.
I also don't want it to be that he's not like, I don't want them to be like, oh, by the way, no, he's not your kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want that either.
I want him to be their kid. And
And I agree with you, and I really like that when you postulated it to me, that it's something not only of Picard, but it's something special about Beverly.
Right.
Too.
Right.
I am kind of surprised that, again, okay, so we're going to spoil some of season 2 here if you didn't watch the end of that, which it was not the easiest thing to get through for me, but I did it. I think if Wesley never showed up to tell his mom he was okay, that's a mistake. Because she says she lost him. Now, that we don't know what that means. She never expanded on that. If it means she lost him to just be this monitor of timelines, great. But if she meant it that she thought he died, I don't think that would have happened. Right. And I know that he's protecting the timeline, and one mistake he made here did this. I get that, but I think it would be I just can't see him never letting her know ever, not even once, that I'm okay, but you're never going to see me again. And so that's why she lost him, and that's fine. Right. That would be an explanation I would accept.
Yeah. Was he was in Nemesis, right?
He was in Nemesis in the very beginning at the wedding scene.
Right. Okay.
In white dress uniform. So he came back to Starfleet at some point for something, and then left to be a traveler again anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Which, okay, so and that's where I look at, you want to talk fan service? A lot of Nemesis, especially in the beginning, was fan service.
Oh, sure.
Wesley being in a Starfleet uniform at the wedding, that was fan service. Whoopi Goldberg showing up just for that little bit at the wedding, to me, that was a little bit of fan service. This is a little bit different. It's much more story driven, much more thought out than just, hey, we want to throw him in here and not have any explanation. And
Right.
I'm not saying you need an explanation. Lord knows Worf showed up in all those movies, and some of them were not really explained. He's just there. And he had to be there because he was contracted to do movies, and that's great. I loved him in them, but you didn't need an explanation. It didn't matter. It does not really matter. It's just in my own head trying to place all these events. I'm just trying to figure out a scenario where Wesley would have never ever let her know
Yeah.
that he's okay, even though you're never going to see him again.
Right.
So I kind of hope that's why she would have said, "I lost him, and I don't want to lose Jack." But if there's something special about her, maybe it's just destined. She's lost her husband, Jack. She's lost Wesley. She's going to lose him, all for duty in some fashion, all for morality's sake in some capacity.
Yeah.
And there just has to be something about her. And it could be, it might not even be cosmic or existential. It could be just her moral center is to heal and protect and do good. And she's passed this on to everybody she's been in contact and cared with. That's still not a bad way to be,
Yeah.
but I kind of would expect it to be more.
And you can't go through. It's sort of like the I have like a. It's not my theory. It's pretty much anybody. If you read like the early Fantastic Four stories or later stories, you can't go through all those adventures and not be changed.
Yeah.
Beverly, all of those characters have been through time, have been through space, have been through multiple dimensions, have been
Yeah.
through, DNA changes, whether they were changed in animals or,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I feel like they they are more than human, and I think an easy explanation is just that. Just like Scott Summers and Jean Grey are
Sure.
destined to make the most perfect baby or whatever, like Picard and Beverly are just there's just some people you put together, they're going to create the
Yeah.
next whatever, so I'd be totally okay if they want to go that route. It's a little more cosmic than Star Trek is, but it's not really.
But it also goes back to the way the motion picture was too,
Yeah.
because they built up all of that just to get to the point where Decker merged with V'ger and created something else. And heck, that could be the ancient voice that's coming through.
Oh
Like
no.
there's so many crazy things that could
Sure.
happen.
Right.
Um,
We're just forgetting which one it probably
yeah,
is.
yeah. It's probably more Picard centric, more Next Generation centric, and I don't want it to be the Skin of Evil or anything crazy like that because that would
No.
be ridiculous. But I'm trying to think of some kind of adventure that we saw that they had where something ancient would have come about. I
Right.
mean, Picard liked archaeology and digging through things. So, was there something he mentioned that might clue into this? Was it something from that professor that gave him the statue that opened up to many different statues? Like, there's so many things that it could be that I want it to be something that I haven't thought of and still be spectacular, not like wah,
Yeah.
wah.
Yeah.
But
No.
again, like you said, I wouldn't be disappointed in the show if it turns out to be something like that either.
Right.
The show has done such a great job up to this point. I can't imagine it's not going to be good no matter what it is.
Yeah. What are your hopes for the ending? Whether like, what do you want to see? Because I have a couple of things I think I've already said that I want to see. What do you want to see?
Well, I really would like to see them all survive at the end, although I don't know that that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me really thinks that Picard will die at the end, even if he's the only one. Because I think that would be something that would finish the show and his story and allow the others to still progress forward. Because
Right.
there are rumors of a legacy show coming down the pike
Right.
with some of these people being in and out of at times.
That's what the showrunner wants. He wants a
Yeah.
legacy show. Yeah.
But to me, that could mean that they're all survived or maybe not all of them. And I think if anyone is a candidate, you wouldn't kill Data right away. If you're not killing
Right.
all of them,
Yeah.
which I think would be a horrid mistake, I think Picard makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Um,
So here's my
to
statement.
sacrifice himself to protect everybody.
or even just to protect his son. Like remember
Or even, yeah, or even just Jack. Yeah.
that conversation Beverly had about, I thought about telling you about your son, but then you got attacked by this, and then you
Yeah.
got attacked by this. My thing is, it feeds into one of the things that I really want to see, which I think I mentioned to you, which I think we all know is going to happen. Like, we are going to get a scene where all those ships at the museum are going to be
Hmm.
coming to the rescue at Frontier Day. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the only ones
Because
that
they're
aren't
the ones that,
connected.
yep. Yep.
They're all getting worked on. You probably could do it with very minimal crew because
Hmm.
Data could be the one that could like connect all the ships or whatever. Like there's many ways you can have that happen.
Yeah.
And whatever is in Hangar 12, which I think
Yep.
is the saucer, we've said is probably the saucer to Enterprise D. I think Kirk never went down with his ship. I think they're going to have Picard go down with Enterprise D. Like I think
Yeah.
like I
Could
could
be.
see him being back at the captain in that old bridge again, and then something happens that he has to protect. Because Jack was talking about the Enterprise A. He really liked
Hmm.
the Enterprise. So if he captains that,
Yeah.
and Picard's on D, Seven's on Voyager, Worf is on Defiant. Like
Or
I,
the, yeah. Yeah.
I feel like, oh God, I'm like, please give us that scene. That's what
Yeah.
I want. Because I wrote in here like, whenever we get these crossovers, we get the actors, the characters, right? We get the music. We get so many crossovers. What's the one thing that doesn't ever cross over? Is the ships. We never
Yeah.
see the ships really cross over. And
The
like
closest you got is Enterprise B in yesterday's Enterprise?
Enterprise C.
Enterprise C. Yep,
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
through. But even that was that an Excelsior class yet?
That no, that
No,
was
that was different. That was
Ambassador or
different.
something. I forget what that
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
So you still never, yeah, you're right. You still never got a crossover of ships
Right.
coming through.
Like Defiant with Enterprise with like I want to see those ships just
Yeah.
tear whatever they're going to fight. That's what I want
A-
to see.
And it would make sense that Geordi's trying to keep something secret, rebuilding the Enterprise D for something, even if it was for the
Frontier
special
Day.
day, Frontier
Yeah.
Day. Um, yeah, that would make total sense
Right.
to go back and do that.
Or that's the ship they want for Legacy or something like that.
Yeah. Do we know if Frontier Day's happening at the museum?
No, it's happening on Earth, right? Isn't it? Aren't
Okay.
they all
I
convening
couldn't
on
I
Earth, I
couldn't
think?
remember where they were convening at.
Yeah, I don't remember. Um, and then I also even thought, here's a wild speculation. Because we saw Kirk's body and we've seen Picard's body, like they're
Hmm.
keeping all these captains. Like, is there
Well,
a way that the ships could be captained by AI, like
yeah.
holographic AI? And are we gonna freaking see Kirk at the end? Like,
Well, and think about this, and I want to know if you've heard this or you've gone back and listened to it,
okay,
and others too. If someone tells me I'm crazy, that's fine. But
hmm
the episode where they first get onto Daedalus and they're going through finding all these things, and you see Genesis 2, and then you see Kirk's body,
oh,
you don't
the Daystrom Institute, yeah,
the Daystrom mystery,
yeah, yeah.
you don't see his dead body. You see the panel, but you hear the life beat of a med bed from Star
Oh,
Trek. You hear beep beep, and I'm like, well, is Kirk really dead, or they just have him in cryogenic freeze
or have they
for some
created a
reason,
new Kirk?
or have they created a new Kirk? And that's what's just beep. And
Yeah,
and I've gone back, I've listened to it two or three times, and I would bet my comics that's what I'm hearing.
yeah,
A bio bed heartbeat going
right.
through. It's very subtle.
It'd be very weird if like that was the changeling plans, like they're bringing back all these captains of like maybe that's how we'll see, Cisco and Janeway and Archer and like because
Yeah.
they're but that would be so weird. The Federation would be like, what the hell, like that. So that
Yeah.
would seem a little bit left of center. So I don't know. I don't know. I just want I just want those ships. That's all I want. I just want those ships flying
To
around
do
again to
something.
do something,
Yeah.
you know, just to show them how powerful they are and how well they work together. Like, it'd be so cool to see the little Enterprise A over the
Hmm.
big Enterprise D,
Yeah.
the fat ship, right? Like the little
Yep.
ship over the fat ship, and little Defiant running around. Like, I just want to see that. Just kicking all the other the starships' asses. Like,
Yeah.
please let me have that. So,
Yep. I'm really curious.
be so good. So, that's my
Yep.
big hope for the end.
And it makes sense for what they're driving for and what they've shown so far. It makes perfect sense that that's a possibility.
Right. Is there anything
'Cause-
in that closing outro thing? Have you noticed any other secrets or anything?
No, because as we were going through, because I'll message you, I'm like, oh my God, this is what this part is. This is what
Yep,
this
yep,
part is.
yep, yep.
So now with this last episode, as you go through the credits, you see the top view of the Titan, and you see one section blinking, like the if you're looking from the top, the saucer section, the right back
Mm-hmm.
quarter panel's blinking. Well, when Data's going through doing stuff in this last episode, that display was up and that part of the ship's blinking. I'm like, all
Cool.
right, so Data was doing something to get control back, and that's what that part of the credits means. I'm running out of things to tie it to that I don't know.
What's the thing? Is it the portal device? There's like it's a
There's a device
display,
here
but
that
then there's
has
like a
different.
triangle thing. It shoots energy towards another. Is that the portal from
I
when
thought that
they?
was the portal, but it could be what's dispersing in the event that's coming up to all the other ships,
Yeah.
possibly.
Oh, okay.
But I
Okay.
thought at first it was just the portal weapon.
I wasn't sure if it was like not the wormhole, but something with the whatever. I don't know because it's an energy display more than anything, and it's like a
Yeah.
weird. That
Well,
was the
and
one thing I wasn't sure if we haven't
that
covered
doesn't
here.
mean that they didn't study the wormhole at Deep Space Nine and be able to derive something from it to create
Right.
whatever they're doing to put. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
I'm just trying
tricky.
to shoehorn Deep Space Nine in there somewhere.
Right. Because like data lore and data fighting, that's what those little positronic
Yep.
things
And
were.
the
So
little lights going on and off.
Mhm. And so I'm like looking through and I'm like, what haven't we? Because
Now,
you studied it more than I have, but I'm like, there's got to be something in there that we have yet to see.
around the part where you see the ships of the museum and they're flipping, you see
Yeah, yeah,
Excelsior and
yeah,
Enterprise
yeah.
and whatnot. There are a couple that kind of fizzle out at the end, and there's some kind of wording up here on a panel that's much closer to you that really fades out quick that I haven't deciphered that yet.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if it's like them going in and unlocking all the ships to be free
Oh,
to be taken over and out.
and to be
Um,
active, yeah. There was there was on the one of the designers from the show on Twitter posted um, the museum like on that episode. They were like, "Welcome to this museum," and they listed all the ships that were there that we obviously saw, you know. But
mhm.
there was like one or two that I thought was uh, oh, here it is. Okay, so Dave Blass. The United Federation of Planets invites you to tour the finest Starfleet vessels that have ever ventured out amongst the stars. So it's like a visitor's guide, right? Okay, so here
Okay.
are the ships. Most of these we've seen there. So Voyager,
Yep.
um, USS Enterprise, the from the NX-01
Yep.
version,
From Enterprise.
right? Kronos One,
Yep.
HMS Bounty. So
Yep.
Kronos One, like one of the original Klingon looking ships, right?
Well, yeah, and that's from the Undiscovered Country.
Okay.
That's Chancellor Gorkon's ship. Was Kronos One.
The USS Enterprise A.
Yep.
They had Stargazer.
Yep.
They had the New Jersey, which was a
Yep.
Constitution class. The USS Sentinel, which I'm not sure what that is. Um, the Lexington, the Excelsior,
Yep.
Saratoga, and then on the lower ring, USS Argo, Pioneer, the Defiant, a Romulan bird of prey, and USS Wershing, which I think is named after somebody. And then there's something about oh no, that's just for scale.
The Saratoga, wasn't that one that was in Star Trek 4 that got blasted by the whales coming in? That got
Maybe.
stranded?
The Saratoga was destroyed at the Battle of Wolf 35. Oh, it's Cisco ship. Isn't that Cisco ship?
Oh, maybe. Maybe. That could be.
I don't remember. I see. This is where my Star Trek nerdum doesn't. So I don't know. People can hear that. And maybe they'll they can come up with their own.
Well, as soon as we end, I'm going to go listen to the beginning of Star Trek 4 and find the beginning of
Yeah.
Emissaries part and see what ships they say.
Right. So that's all I want. I want the ships. I want the ships, please. Give me the ships.
Yeah, and again, it makes perfect sense. I did not think initially about the Enterprise D in Hangar 12 until you said that.
Right. Because they could have rescued the saucer.
Yeah, and salvaged it and started rebuilding it.
I don't know how. And is it just Geordi that's rebuilding one whole saucer? That'd be crazy. You know?
Well, well, so you would think that Picard would have heard of that at some point, but I go back to the new Battlestar Galactica where they found Adama's original Viper and restored that.
Yeah.
And that made perfect sense. So if you're kind of throwing an homage to something like that, this would kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Too.
I also love how Jack's power reminds me of Jericho from New Teen Titans, like the whole eye thing, and that he can invade bodies. Like it's like so cool. All that stuff is cool. So
yeah, I was trying to think of any other creature that did that because there have been a few that have gotten on the Enterprise D and taken over bodies for their own use. They did it with it was the time lapse one. Is that what it's called? No, not cause and effect. That was the one where Kelsey Grammer showed up at the end.
Right.
There was the one where Clues. It was called Clues, where aliens came in. Data was the only one not affected. He revived the whole crew, and they went through the whole day again to fix everything so that it would still be a mystery, but they found out about it.
Right.
Those were some crazy aliens. There was also ones that took over
Deanna
O'Brien, yeah. And God, who was the other one? Was it?
I think it was Data, wasn't it?
Was it Data?
Yeah, because he wanted to fight Worf. Yeah.
That could have been it.
They were prisoners of something, yeah.
Then I was also trying to think, well, gosh, is it something from that first season episode, not the creature that was that were supposed to take over everything? Because I thought that was a pretty good theory in the beginning, but I don't think that's it anymore. Was it something from the Romulans and the 20th century people being found in the cryogenic ship?
Oh, okay.
So that Romulan thing, the Romulans came and said, something's been holding us back. We've been dealing with it. Now we're ready to re-enter the world again.
Right.
That was supposedly intended to be the Borg at one point, but nothing ever happened with that.
Right.
Maybe it's something with that that's certainly ties back to the original series, but is possibly ancient and unknown. But the fact that the changelings are involved make me think it's none of that it's more the Pa-Wraith kind of thing.
Right. Just giving a resolution to that story.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I'm excited. I watch it as quickly as I can on a Wednesday and I'm like, I got another week. I am not Thursday. I am not one to binge shows when they're released on streaming. Like Netflix does it a lot. I watch them once a week or a couple in a week. I don't burn through them in a day. I kind of really wish this one was let out at least twice a week. Still anxious.
It's appointment television. It's like you got to be there to watch it to be part of the discussion. But it's the first time I've been this excited about Star Trek, and it's for pure nostalgia reasons. But as great as like the beginning, when I was watching Discovery when it first came out, but even the movies, like the Chris Pine movies, like this is what I've been wanting, if you're going to do, and it has so much potential to continue, like the characters are really great. Like Jack is really great. Geordi's daughter, Sydney, is really great, like even Raffi, if she sort of takes on like the new Worf role, like I like her now. Like I feel like there's more potential now where she's gotten away from some of the previous stuff. Shaw, Seven, like I feel like you can do so much and keep this thing going, like that comic, the IDW comic. Like it's not just focused on one thing. It's now the entire Star Trek universe. You want to go tell a Deep Space Nine story? Here you go. Let's get these actors for a season. Let's get the Voyager actors in for a season. Let's get, let's mix it all up. And I'd be, how great would it have, well, I guess she'd be too old, but like Sulu's daughter when she was
Sure.
from Enterprise B, like who else can we get? Did Bones have any grandchildren? Did uh
Right.
who else can
Did
we
Chekhov
get?
have anybody? Did
Yeah, let's get them
Uhura?
on. Let's get
Yeah.
going. Let's get it all going. I think that'd be great.
And I think this, if anything, this season with what they've done and the potential of what could be if they decide to continue with it, along with showing, while still being silly but still poignant in some ways, what Lower Decks is doing. If you look back at Peter David's New Frontier book series, which brought together a lot of what I would say B-level characters from a few
Right.
different places in Star Trek history and put them together on Captain Calhoun's ship,
Right.
that wasn't bad either. That was an interesting take on a lot of this stuff too.
Right.
Um, Not in the same way, and it's years ago, but it kind of showed you could pull some of these characters together and do something interesting.
Right.
And I think they've done a great job of doing that here, and there's certainly potential to continue that.
Yeah, because I think Shaw has it sort of has given us the okay to have other captains
Hmm.
that aren't perfect.
And
you know?
aren't the Enterprise.
And that's not the Enterprise, and it doesn't have to always be the hero, because we're so fixated on Kirk and Pike and
Yeah.
no, here's Shaw. He's just a dude and he's tired of the antics of what the Enterprise is up to, but there's probably many, many more that are like that. Like you can develop other captains and let's do it,
Yeah.
and other ships as well. So
Yep.
lots of potential. All right. Well, there you go. There's your little hour-ish Star Trek talk.
Yeah.
We'll see how excited we get for the next episode, and we'll see if we want to do this again before the big finale. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm so scared.
Yeah. Yeah. One more.
One more.
One more after this.
All right.
Oy.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.